Good evening, everyone, and welcome to me being back from my trip. Wow, that is so off center. Okay, so as some of you who may have been paying attention to the Discord may have known, I was away uh, for a while now. I wasn't able to stream this past week, but I just got back. Was it last week or the week before? Anyhow, I've been busy since then, but I got back very recently from a trip to the Netherlands, where I was actually doing a course studying traditional and classical architecture and urban design. So I thought I would pull out the sketchbook, pull out the camera, and show you some of the photos, some of the sketches, all that jazz, so you could enjoy it. The other thing I did is I pulled out all of my coins, because I'm a bit of a coin nerd. And I thought, hey, maybe some of you guys are too. If not, this first segment is going to be a little bit boring because, sorry, I like coins and we're going to go through all the coins. So here you can see, okay, they're not all visible. So I'll just move everything up a little bit. So you can see that I managed to fairly well get rid of most of my euros. This is all that I have, really. Got 15 in bills with these nice little arches and the bridges on the back. Very cool. Oh, I've completely forgotten how to do this, apparently. I also have my €9 ticket from Germany, because Germany is cool and they decided to run a promotion on their public transit. So right now, you buy one €9 ticket, and that covers you for all regional transit for the entire country for the entire month of August. €9. The best part is, it's only costing them like €25 per ticket, the German government, which really shows you how incredibly cheap transit is across Germany. That they can afford to do that for only €25 a person. €25 plus the 9 that you're paying. So it's like less than €40 to pay for the cost of moving a person around the entire nation for an entire month. It boggles the mind. Anyhow, here are the coins. So we have the €2, of course. The one that I have here is French. Yes, it is visible. I hope you guys can actually see that a little bit. So I'll bring it up to the camera, maybe. Here, I'll just do it to this one. Ooh, there we go. So that's what it looks like. Very fancy. Fraternité, égalité. Oh, sorry. Liberté, égalité, fraternité. Of course. Then we have. I only have German ones, curiously enough, with the Imperial Eagle there. For the 50 cents, I've actually got good variety. We have German, which has the Brandenburg Gate, which is actually the design they use for the 50, the 20, and the 10, because for some reason, the Euro decided that they would do 50, 20, and 10, rather than 10 and 25. I don't know why, but that's the way it is. It seems to me that the 20 coin is kind of redundant. And one thing I do find is, like, these coins are very, very similar. Like, both in size and, like, in terms of the ridging and stuff. And the color's exactly the same, of course. So I was constantly getting the 50 and the 20 mixed up. And then the 20 and the 10 mixed up. Especially when you're, like, scrambling around in your coin purse, which for me was just this random bag that I used to pack my headphones on the way there. But yeah, personally, I prefer the 5, 10, 25 system. I think it works a little bit better. Because, yeah, you're just adding, like, an extra coin. I do like the 50. I like 50-cent pieces. That's nice. I like that. But, yeah, I just think that you'd be better off turning the 20 to a 25 and then having the 50. But that's my personal preference, and Europeans probably like it this way for a reason. But we also have on the 50 here, we also have the French one. Ooh. Not sure how good I can bring that into focus. There we go. You can see the lovely lady there. And interestingly enough, I have the Italian one as well. And no Dutch ones. Which, I mean, the Dutch ones are all kind of very similar. So, yeah. It's amazing how many of the German ones I got. You can really tell that Germany is there's a lot of German money passing through the Netherlands. So then we have the Brandenburg Gate again. Okay, let's skip that one. Then we also have the Belgian 20 cent, which just has the Belgian king on it. And I think those are the only 20 cents I have. For the Euro 10, of course, we have a whole stack of the German Brandenburg Gate. We also have, of course, the Belgian king again. Here we have the same French lady that's on the 50. So one thing I noticed is that France, Germany, Netherlands, they all use the same icon for their €1 and €2, and then the same icon for 10, 20, 50, and then perhaps something different for the 5. Do I even have 5s? I do have 5s, actually. But I also have, this one is, I believe, Italian again. Lovely lady there. And then we also have the Luxembourgish one, which also just has their king, which is a running thing in the sort of the lowland countries. Belgium, Netherlands, and Luxembourg all use just their monarch for their coin, for all of their coins, actually. But Belgium has just like one icon for their entire series of coins. The Netherlands has different variations, and I believe Luxembourg as well. And then, of course, we have the 5s, and I have the Dutch one, if it'll focus, which... maybe I need to hide. So you can kind of see that. They're all available online, and then also the German one, which has the oak. And interestingly, the only 2 and 1 coins I have, which personally seems rather impractical. Like a 1 makes sense, a 2, really? A 2? Here's the 1, here's the 2. They're just absolutely minuscule coins, and they're both German. Because, interestingly enough, the Dutch do not use 1s and 2s. They just completely skip it. So everything gets rounded to 5s and 10s. Which, being Canadian, saying as we have also gotten rid of the penny, I actually really appreciated it. It made it really easy. And then going to Germany was really weird. I was like, 1s and 2s, what the heck am I supposed to do with these? And that's just it. Nothing. I collected a whole bunch of them. Well, not that many, but... and yeah, you can see, like, the real size comparison in these. Like, a Canadian dime versus a Euro dime. Like, there's just such a difference in terms of their width and their girth, their height, however you want to call it. I think that really stood out to me. I think the quarters are much more similar. And this is a running trend. Canadian coins are really, really thin. And American coins as well, because they're the same dimensioning. They're really thin compared to the euro. And I'm not sure which of those I like better. They both have advantages and disadvantages. The nickel is actually like the same coin on both, though. It's just our nickel is made of primarily nickel, and theirs is higher copper content. But yeah, like you can see the one smaller diameter, but they have a thicker width, which is interesting. Anyhow, I think I've bored you with enough coin talk. Let me dump all of this back in the coin purse that I was using. And then we can get on to the sketchbook and the photographs, because I think those will be things that you'll probably be more interested in. Which, judging from the viewership, is going to be an accurate assessment. But thank you all for sticking through the coins. I appreciate it. Probably should have taken out fewer of these coins. Oh. Anyhow. So I actually have a total of 3 booklets that we can go through, but not all of them are created equal. So, well, I don't know. I'm not entirely sure how I want to do this just yet. I'll do what I can. First, I need to dump my Canadian coins in the big jar that I use for collecting my loose change. So, perhaps we should actually start with some photos. Now, this is something I didn't think about. Sure, this'll work. Do I have... I have the second camera there. I don't have the desk camera. Video capture device. The desk cam. And we will just drop that in there. Sure. Is that going to be big enough? Sure, let's say that it will be for now. Okay. Oh, and of course we need the, how do you say, where is it? The music box. We put that up there, and then my face just down here a bit. There we go, that's a little bit better. Wow, that is a crowded screen. Okay, so what I will just do is I'll just... For now, I think it makes sense to disable the desk cam. Great. Okay. And we can just go through some of the photos. So what happened is I flew into Amsterdam on, what was it, July 15? July 16? I think it was... It must have been July 15. Anyhow, it's been so long. So I flew into Amsterdam, and then I wandered around Amsterdam for the afternoon, because I got in at like noon. And I had originally planned to go to one of the museums there, one of the many museums there, but that ended up not happening, just because, yeah, I didn't have a ton of time before I wanted to get to the meeting point in Utrecht, because, yeah, so I basically had enough time to walk around the main canal area, and then by lunch, sit down, find a nice spot, record a little clip of me describing what had happened, because I made sure to vlog a little bit throughout this, so maybe you'll see some of that eventually if I ever get around to editing. And yeah, then I basically from there hopped on the train and went straight to Utrecht. And I suppose it might be a good idea to have a map open. Okay, so Amsterdam is over here. And the airport is actually a little bit south and west, Schiphol. That's the airport there. There's a lovely little train that takes you straight into Amsterdam Centraal, which is the central station there. And then Utrecht is just down here. It's about half an hour train ride between the two. And yeah, you can see exactly where all of the places were. So we stayed here in Bishopssteeg, which I'm definitely mispronouncing, over on the Science Park, they call it. Here, I'll show you the map to sort of give you a better idea of what it looks like. Wow, that is such a vibrant photo. Interesting. Some of the ones over Canada are not this vibrant, for sure. But yeah, we were staying in a building called the Johanna. It's called the Johanna, and it's basically student dorms for the university, because there's like a whole bunch of university campuses here. And then we had our classroom. Where is our classroom? Classroom was... Is that it? Yes, that is. So this was our classroom here on Drift 25, which is also owned by the university. The course itself wasn't affiliated with the university, but they used university buildings. So yeah, we were in Drift 25 for almost every day. We also had one class in a different school. It looked like a high school over here at Christ-like Gymnasium. And that was an interesting day for sure. But on my first day there, yeah, I basically met them up at the station. I suppose I should show you where the station is. This is Utrecht Centraal. Very nice. Nice central location. You basically step out right here, go over 2 blocks, and this is the medieval city center. Just absolutely gorgeous city center. Truly magnificent. Yeah, and as you can see, we were studying directly in it, which pretty amazing. So every day, so we got to the my word, why is everything selected? Can I? Never mind. We'll just ignore it for now. Okay, no, nothing doing. So we met up with the course organizers at Utrecht Centraal, and then we took a bus, or was it a tram? I think it was a bus. It's kind of hard to tell because a lot of the time the buses and the trams use the same like space, so they'll have the tram lines on a bus lane as well, which is pretty cool and very efficient. It's quite clever, really. But whatever we were taking, I think it was a bus, now that I mention it. And we took that down into right around here, I think. Oh no, we took it right here to Heidelberglaan. And then, of course, we could just walk down this street and right into the building. And I'll give you a view of what the building looked like. Okay, apparently from this angle. Because, yeah, this building was not traditional or classical in the least. And there were many complaints by people about this building. But personally, it's not great, but it's not bad. Like, at least there's some color there. There's some vibrancy to it. There's a lot of dead space around it, but at least it's not as hideous as this building. Maybe my standards are just low, but honestly, this building is much, much worse. This is a little bit dystopian. But thankfully, we weren't staying in that one. We were in the Johanna. Why is it? brought me all the way over here. And that was basically my first day in the Netherlands, just getting to the dorms. And there's a little convenience store, which also it's like a grocery convenience store. It's extra, it's pretty great. It's a little pricier than a proper grocery store, but like I would go down there to buy spices, sauces. I bought my shallots there when I was cooking them. Like I bought chicken there to start. It wasn't very good chicken, but I did buy it there. I bought my laundry detergent there. You could buy fresh bread there. Like this is what we're talking about when we talk convenience stores. It is not the same as convenience stores here in North America, and it is much better. It's much better that way. So yeah, I basically bought some food from there, and then that was my night. And then the next day I decided to go for a walk. Oh yeah, here's some of the bicycle parking. As seen from, I think this is probably my window in those dorms, which is pretty cool. And yeah, as you can see, I was really enjoying my walk through Utrecht, because I walked from the Johanna all the way to Utrecht Centraal, which you can see, like, that's a good distance. And of course, I didn't take the most direct route either. If I take directions by walking to Centraal, Centraal. Okay, fine. Utrecht Centraal. So I think I actually did pretty much follow this route. I think I deviated a little bit around here. But yeah, basically this on the way there. And then, yeah, up this way here and in. And this was actually quite a nice walk. But yeah, it did take me an hour to do. And I think it took me more than an hour, I'll be honest. I was taking photos and just enjoying myself, really, so. But I bought some bread. I think I bought butter as well on the way, which maybe was not the smartest idea, but it ended up not melting like crazy, so I guess it worked out. And then I walked back as well, because I didn't want to spend money. But I took a way less direct route. Which museum is this? No, I didn't go past that museum. No, I didn't go past that museum either. There are so many museums in this area. It's honestly hard to keep track of them. I did go through the Dom Cathedral here, Domkerk, and there's a lovely little cloister off to the side as well. We'll switch to map view. Wow, that is kind of difficult to tell where it is. Here we go. So here's the tower, which is under restoration right now. So yeah, you can see all the scaffolding. That's basically the view I had too, except from the side. And then here's the church itself. At one point they had built like this, or at least they started building this massive church in between, but then there was like a big storm and it all collapsed and they had no money, so they're like, well, just clear it away, we'll have the tower and we'll have the choir and that's good enough. Which is quite a funny story. And then here is the cloister, which is really nice. And we came back to this area a lot because number one, it's very central, and number two, it's just nice. It's really nice. But then, yeah, I think I went more down this way or something, because I walked past the Speelklok Museum on my way back as well, which, yeah, not on the direct route, but it was quite lovely. And then I sort of came down this way And I think my phone was running low on battery, so I was just trying to direct myself in the general direction. Because I knew that I needed to go east, and basically a little bit south, but mostly east. Um, so my way back took a really long time, and yeah, I was I was very tired after that day, and I was very glad that on Monday we had the bicycles. But anyhow, here's some of the photos I took. So oh, this is actually looking out onto. Apparently, this is a somewhat famous statue. But I'm more interested in the street because this big street here is the Voorstraat, I believe. And it's like a really big commercial, both now and historically. And the square that this is on, it's kind of hard to tell, but these are all basically on the same square. So these are, of course, on this side of the road, but then there's this whole massive square behind it, basically, behind this road, that all of the rest of these are sort of on. And these are sort of the back of the square. And this is to the one side, and this used to be a post office, and now it's a library, and quite a lovely library, and very large. This is what it looks like from inside. I just love the way that the light comes through there. Like, you would not expect that from the shape, but that's what it is. It's really gorgeous inside. This is a view from the second or third level of the library, maybe even fourth level. I'm not sure. And yeah, some of this is nicer, some of this less nice, but you can kind of see how there's just like these random connections to things, which is pretty cool. And yeah, you have all these wood struts in there, quite cool. You can see like a bajillion towers if you get high enough in Utrecht. Like, there's a windmill by a crane. There's just so many cool things. And this is a little ways further. So where is that square? So that's the library that I was showing you there. And then those were the red houses right there. Not sure if you can tell from here. Maybe I should have started by doing this. Here, So there's the library. There's those buildings. There's a KFC right over here, I believe. Is it? Oh no, the KFC's on a different street entirely, I believe. And there's those red buildings. There's the library. And the Voorstraat. And then I walked from there down. It must have been down this way a little bit, because I must have just gone straight south. I probably went down this road, but I don't actually know. Down to the Oude Gracht. And there is a shop right here called Winkel van Sinkel, which is quite famous. And Winkel van Sinkel just means the shop of Sinkel, I believe. Either that or it's the shop of Winkel. But since it's such a funny name, then of course it became rather famous. And the architecture on it is pretty interesting. Do I have any photos of Winkel van Sinkel? I don't think so. Interesting. But yeah, then this is the Stadhuis, Utrecht City Hall, basically. Well, that's not basically what it is, that is what it is. So yeah, there's this lovely little canal here. And you'll notice here that the canal disappears underneath because this entire plaza here is actually a bridge, which is pretty cool. And we actually sketched around here as well, which is pretty cool. So that's this area right here, basically. It's in that general vicinity. And I believe this is the Spiegelclock Museum, or at least one side of it. Yeah, you can see the sign there. Museum Spiegelclock. And their other entrance is actually completely different. I have photos of it somewhere else. This is the tower of it. And then we have the Dom Tower. Dom Tour is, I believe, at least closer to the Dutch pronunciation. And here they have this big picture, I guess, of what it kind of looks like inside. And a statue out front. And of course, UNESCO World Heritage. It's just literally everywhere, all over that city. UNESCO shields. There was one inside the university building that we were in, or not the one we were in. It was in Drift 27 instead of Drift 25, but it's like all part of the same complex basically. And they had like this one little doorway that was UNESCO protected, so they just had to like build around it. It was pretty interesting. It's quite funny. The doors were carved with the scriptures, well, various scriptures in all different languages, which was quite interesting. So here's the English. I think below is Latin. There was Italian, I think Japanese, Dutch, of course, lots of Dutch. And then here's a bunch of signs talking about how the cathedral came to be and sort of its history, and also a sign about their weekly services, because they still hold services in there. It has some truly gorgeous stained glass windows. I'm not sure why this one ended up so blurry, but it looks kind of cool despite the blurriness. And yeah, there's tons of symbolism in these stained glass windows. Tons of symbolism all over the place in this. And yeah, it is truly just a magnificent building. And this photo, really doesn't do it justice. Just the scale of it. It is so immensely tall. Yeah, it's a little bit almost terrifying how tall it is. Not exactly terrifying, but like, yeah, it looks just way too tall, way taller than it should be, sort of deal. I think this sort of captures that idea of just how tall this space really is. And this is one of the lower levels. And here's the cloister I was talking about. You can see my hands there. Beauty. Here is just outside. I forget what this building is. I think it's... Oh, that's the university flag. This is a university building. I forget what the purpose of it is. Or what the purpose of it was, even. These are just some houses on the square there. And yeah, then here's the cloister again. It's more detail work around the area. These were some of the houses I walked past. I think they're probably along either here or here somewhere. Probably around here, actually. I don't know, though. And then this is on Prins Hendrikslaan, I believe. Where is this it? No. Yeah, so this is Prins Hendrikslaan, and I think this is... Actually, this might not be. It might be, though. I forget. This was like a big corner building. Oh, it must not be on Hendrikslaan. Yeah. Maybe it's in here? That might actually be it. I'm not too clear. I remember I remember roughly where it fits, but I don't remember exactly where it is. Here's one of the absolutely lovely boulevards. This is a very wide boulevard, but it still kind of works. No, it does work. There's an old boxcar just rusting on one of the rail lines there, which I found interesting. Oh yeah, I walked through a bunch of like the smaller neighborhoods on my way back too. I think it was these neighborhoods, and I was vaguely walking in the correct direction. But yeah, as you can see, I think I went down here to take a picture of that boxcar, which was somewhere in here, on the rail line, of course. As you can see, here's all the rail lines. And then I think I came down the... Oh, this makes sense now, why there was a random rusty old boxcar there, because it's right next to the Railway Museum. That makes so much sense. But yeah, then we have the... Then I sort of came down this way, and I'm not sure which of these streets I actually took. Apparently there was a local pointed out to me, I think, this pigeon here, and he said, oh, this is famous. I never understood why, but since it's supposedly famous, I took a photo of it specifically. I think mostly just to appease him, because I wanted to show my appreciation for him pointing that out, and I was like, oh, great. But I also didn't want to stay too long, because I was pretty tired at that point, and as you can see, that's still a pretty long ways away from the dorms. Like, that's about halfway there. So yeah, I came through here, and yeah, I was hoping that there was like a way to cut through. There is not. And then yeah, I went through this park a lot, but only ever this road, this path on it. It was quite funny. And then yeah, I think I basically just walked down. Oh, no, actually, I would click to remove. There we go. And then I walked past here. There's another university building here. There are so many university buildings. Walked up this way, and yeah, then I was basically home. And I think I stopped to buy groceries. And that was like my entire day. So yeah, you can see me going through the neighborhoods. And yeah, some of these are just really nice. And here's the park. Here's some more other neighborhoods. This is a bridge right by the university, actually. I believe, yeah. It's this bridge right here. Because the pedestrian crossing and local traffic goes underneath the highway here. And yeah, they have this bridge decorated with these tiles of chairs. As you can see, like a lot of tiles of chairs. Here's that university building, of course. Here's the science park that we were staying at. These were just some shades I liked as I passed by. Oh yeah, this was... So this is that Spar convenience store that I was talking about. And this was my favorite sign the entire time. Everybody loves free, but theft is police. I don't understand why the English was so bad, because, like, everywhere else, the English was, like, basically immaculate. Both, like, in this store and, like, anywhere else you saw an English sign, it's virtually immaculate. Which makes sense, because Dutch and English are very close, so that makes translation really, really easy. Also, tons of Dutch people have a excellent handle on the English language. Probably in part because they're so similar. This was another of my favorite signs. Donuts are healthier than crystal meth, which is factually correct, but also did not really convince me to buy a donut from them. I did appreciate it though. That is factually correct. Donuts are healthier than crystal meth. Oh yeah, they would also play like dubstep in this convenience store. I'm not sure if it was actually dubstep, but it was like pretty heavy electronic music. Here's that other building, the super ugly one. In this lighting, it actually looks not as bad, but yeah, it was... I'm very glad we were not staying here. Let's just put it that way. Um, Here's the dorms. I had to take a photo of myself at some point because I thought I was gonna buy a train pass. I ended up not buying a train pass. Do we really need this one in this? Can I remove from album? There we go. I don't need this in here. Here's some more canals. Oh yes, this is now from our second day when we actually went on our tour. Here's Winkle van Sinkle, and we've got some statues. Very nice. There's not... I don't have a photo of it, unfortunately. But Winkle van Sinkle has... I forget the name for it, but basically you have statues 4 columns. So you just take your column and you go, what if that column was a person? And then you make that happen. And it's very cool. But the name for those statues at Winkle van Sinkle is unfortunately the British Whores, which is quite a funny name. And when we would, yeah, here they are. These are the statues. Google has detected that as somebody's face or something, which makes sense. It is a face. It's just, you know, it's a statue. It's okay, Google. You don't have to preserve the privacy of the statues. It's okay. Yeah, they're called the British Whores, I believe, because they're from Britain. And as to why they're whores specifically, I'm not sure. That's just like the historical name for them. And our tour guide also was not entirely sure. But there's a variety of possible reasons why, which is quite interesting. Yeah, Winkle van Sinkle, hilarious store name, of course. Here's some more of the area. Lovely stuff. Here's the Dom Tower as we saw it, because there it is. This is in the cloister again. This is some of the details on the wall. Here's the statue. I forget who that statue is of, but somewhere else I have a photo of the sign for it. Here's more photos of the cloister. Here's more of what it looks like on the back. This is an Art Nouveau building, I believe is what it's called. And yeah, quite nice. Here's the Eau de Gracht, I believe, again. Where is... Or if it's not... Oh no, actually I think that's the New Gracht. It's this one. Okay, apparently it doesn't have a name that Google recognizes. Whatever this one is. This canal. Whatever it's called. I think it might be... No, it's not Nieuw Gracht. Interesting. It does have a name. I just don't recall what it is. And yeah, you can see the old city wall used to be right around here, which was pointed out to us. And then this is an old brewery somewhere on one of the canals. At least I think it's a brewery. And then this was the brewery. Yes. So this was the brewery. And then they were right on the canal. So then, of course, you could take shipments in and out. And then they had social housing for the workers above, which is quite convenient when you own the brewery, because then your workforce doesn't have to go very far. And it's quite convenient as a worker, because then you don't have to go very far. And I think now it's all housing, which is something that happens a lot in the Netherlands, because yeah, they just need so much housing that a lot of things get converted to housing, because it's there. We need houses. Okay, we'll make it happen. Oh yeah, this is a really interesting thing that I have never seen before, but I really, really like now that I've seen it. So they'll have these big plazas, and then they'll plant trees in them. And it's genius, because then your plaza actually has like some shade, some foliage. It's really beautiful, and it's very pleasant to be in. The one disadvantage, I suppose, is that you don't have as good of a view of the facades, but I think it's an excellent trade-off. And of course, you don't have to do it in every plaza, but it's quite nice. Oh yeah, I'm not sure if I'm able to show you these properly, but the screenshots are really bad anyhow. These are from a book called Heterodoxia, or rather a set of books called Heterodoxia that they're not released yet. One of our lecturers was actually, I'm not sure what her position on with these books is, but she's a PhD student, I think, who's helping to do research for them or something. She's not any of these names here. I'm not sure where in the acknowledgements she would be. But yeah, basically in classical architecture, there's 5 orders, at least 5 orthodox orders. So there's Tuscan, Doric, Ionic, Corinthian, and then Roman or combined. Depends who you ask on what its name is. Although really we can just say that there's only 3 orders, because Tuscan is an awful lot like Doric, and the Roman order is basically Corinthian order with a little sprinkling on it. just a little extra spice. So there's basically only 3, but 3 Orthodox orders, 5 3 to 5 Orthodox orders. And yeah, you can see some of them here. But interestingly, these were not the only columns that people used. These were not the only classical orders that existed. Because, yeah, people all over the Mediterranean were using classical architecture. They just had their own styles that were local to whatever they were doing. And yeah, this set of books, Heterodoxia, is trying to reintroduce some of these orders and really bring them back, I think, is the idea, and show that, yeah, we can expand our idea of the classical orders to include some of the other things that we're going. And the first book is just going over other classical orders that existed that haven't received the same level of acknowledgement. The second and third books are talking about new orders. So the third book has, like, they're not classical orders necessarily, but they are orders that could be incorporated into classicism, from, like, yeah, you can see up to 2020, 1938 to 2020. Which I think is super, super cool. And I really want to buy these books when they come out. But it's going to be like 3 to 5 years, and I expect they're going to be super expensive. But they're also going to be dope. And that's why I can't show you them in more detail. My photographs weren't very good anyhow, so... and then I think now it's time that we get into the sketchbook. Now we're starting to get buildings that are also sketches. So let me lay this out here. And I will turn on the desk cam. So let me see if I can adjust this to be a little more straight. So this is, I believe, from the 3rd day? And yeah, it's basically, this was us just learning how to sketch better, basically. And this is the building I drew. So you're gonna notice that, oh, is it? Oh, it's flipped. Why is it flipped that way? Flip vertically, that makes sense. Because, yeah, there we go. Now it makes sense. So, yeah, you can kind of see that I was... Oh, man, there's really not a great way to do this at all. Here, I can do that a little bit, maybe. But, yeah, you can kind of see that as a geometric study, it's not too bad. I sort of got some of the shape there, but you'll also notice that right up here, that part is missing. Huh, I wonder why that could be. It's almost like I ran out of time, which, yeah, that's exactly what happened. And that will become a running theme in this sketchbook, in all honesty. And here's what the rest of that tower looks like. So yeah, you can see I did not get very far. But yeah, it was a super hot day. I think this was when it was like 35 or something. I didn't take a photo of the second one, so maybe I'll just see if I can find it. So that'll be down... I think that's right around here. Okay, it's a little bit further, I think. No? Too far? Or not far enough? No, too far. I'm not sure. No, not far enough. Here we go. I think, yeah, this is the one. So then we sketched this one, and as you can see, the sun was coming down at sort of this angle by the time we were there, and there was very little shade. I think it was actually coming down the other direction. But yeah, there was very little shade. It was just like this little sliver back here, as wide as that icon, basically. And it was 35 outside. So, oh, that's actually the other page. Here we go. This page. So yeah, as you can see, not a ton of time spent on this one because it was 35, and there was no shade. And then we continued a little ways further down. Where was that? Where was that? I was just there. Oh yeah. So that was right down here, basically. Maybe it's with the layers, it'll be a little easier. So yeah, that was 5 or 7 of this one here, I think. And then this one, I think was this one right here. Yeah, there we are. And I believe this, was it this building that was also the logo? No. But yeah, you can see the similarity there, and there it is in the photo. I got the correct one. And we did this one on charcoal, and then they had like a fixing agent that they sprayed on it once we were done. And thankfully there was some shade for that one. And then this one was an interesting exercise by the Dom. So we ended up over here. And that's actually this building here that I pointed out earlier. So just this doorway. And this was a really interesting exercise. We had like a stick, and then we chopped the end off, and then we had some ink. And the idea was that you were supposed to get a narrow side and a darker side, a thick side, and then to use that to sort of accentuate where the lights were. And some people's turned out really, really nicely. This one did not turn out very nicely because my stick, I just couldn't get the narrow side lights, the narrow side, thick side to work very well. So in order to get the narrow side, I would use like the point, and then the thick side was like the entire flat. Like I had to, yeah. So the difference between my narrow and my wide was just too big to really look very good, I think. And then, yeah, if I had tried it any other way, then there wasn't enough difference between the two for it to look good either. And then the last one is from right here, basically. It's actually a little bit further down. So that's basically the view that we were going for on this last one. And this one was really fun because we did it all with coffee. So I think they just brought along some instant coffee. Some people had actually purchased coffee because we had time for it. And yeah, it's definitely not a one-to-one representation of what this is, but I think I sort of did a good job of capturing like the shape of this building and some of the shape of these buttresses, and then getting the tree in there as well. And I think I had to cheat a little with the tree. I think it actually wouldn't have been in the picture nearly as much if this were accurate, but I don't care. Oh yeah, here's that doorway that we did on the other page. And I think I just liked the look of this. And we were on break. Dimitri Petit. Although that might actually be petite. I'm not sure. Yeah, just some nice area. Here we go. And this is basically what I was drawing. So yeah, you can see it's not one-to-one. But I got the tree at the end. I got the houses there. Yeah, it actually turned out quite well, I think. And it sure looks nice. And then we have... This was right outside our classroom on a different day. This is July 21, and these are all from July, what, 17, 18? 19. July 19. Oh, I think this one actually came earlier, or perhaps the same day. It's not dated, so I'm not entirely sure. No, I think this would have been from the 20th. And that was... Where are we? That was on the Eau de Gracht. Yeah, right by Winkel van Sinkel. That's this view here. It's actually not this view specifically. Whoa. Okay, is there not like an in-between? No, there's not. That is less than ideal. Oh yeah, this is a nice little supermarket. And you can see that they've actually fit it into the two buildings underneath. And they kept some of the walls dividing it as well, which is quite cool. So yeah, our view was actually not from here. It was actually from that little cafe down there, basically. So we ordered drinks and such. Whoa. And yeah, that's sort of the view that we were trying to draw. And I think I have a photo of it somewhere. Oh yeah, this is watercolors from the first day as well. We did some watercolors too. And that's what it looks like before folding. And this is what it looks like after folding. I can't even fit it all in frame. Ta-da! Wow, it's exactly the same thing. And yeah, that was basically just practicing watercolors. Yes. So here's the watercolor and pencil that I started on and ran out of time for. You can see the Stadhuis right there. Obviously at a very different angle, but you can kind of get some of the idea. And this is that bridge right here. And yeah, you can also tell that I did way too much watercolor, way too much of a wash down. So I believe the Domtar would have been right around here-ish. Probably actually a little bit over, but you can see that I tried to clear out that space a little bit. And our instructor also tried to give me a hand, and because yeah, she's like, yeah, you've done too much on this. And then she did like another loop around the class area, and then she came back and she was like, here, let me try to give you a hand, because I had been struggling to try to get some of the paint out, and she gave it a go, and I felt very vindicated when she couldn't get anything out, and I was like, yeah, I know it's really in there. Of course I didn't express that vindication, but yeah, I found that quite funny. And then this was, I believe, the next day or so. The other thing we did is we did a walk around the area again, with a different perspective. Here's more. So that's what this view is. There we go. Now we've got it. And yeah, just a couple others. And then yeah, these are from the other tour that we were on. The white balloons. And yeah, just so many interesting little details. I believe this one was interesting because it's a steel beam used here. And it's like one of the very early uses of steel in this type of, yeah, in buildings like this, and in that fashion. And then they were trying to integrate the steel into their traditional construction methods, but like it took some experimentation. Basically, this was just a cute gate. This is a nice house. I liked some of the detail work on some of these. Yeah. Oh yeah, these are the red shutters. Apparently, like in restoration work, like people are willing to restore almost anything except for shutters. For some reason, people are very resistant to keeping shutters, it seems like, in the Netherlands, at least from the person who was talking about it. That was sort of the perspective that he got. Like, even the most dedicated restorers will often ignore putting shutters on. 1646, just because. Oh yeah, this is a really nice. I like the way that it comes out, basically, and yeah, I'm gonna have to steal that, in essence. That was one thing that I took a lot of photos of. It's how things sort of stick out into the street a little bit, because that's something that I don't see a lot of around here, and I thought that, yeah, those are some things that it would be really nice to see. There's something about this that's significant. I can't remember exactly what it is. I think it's something to do with how this is painted. But I don't exactly recall. Oh, it might actually be that this shop front is a relatively new shop front, but it was done in a very historical style. And then with this one, then a bunch of other people liked how it looked, and then they copied it. But that might be a different store that I'm thinking of. This is one of our slides from our lectures. I don't remember what this was about. Ah, and this is from Opburen, which is actually this day. So in the morning we had lectures and some assignments to do. The first assignment was to sort of lay out a bridge, or not the bridge itself, but to lay out the benches by our classroom. Where are we? Here we go. Along the drift. So that was... Oh, these ones right here. And yeah, that's a decent approximation right there. Quite decent, I think, considering that the only thing I was measuring with was, like, my body, basically. I basically stood like this in front of one of the benches, and then I went, well, this distance is about 2 bench widths. This one's 3 bench widths, you know. So I just, like, stood, like, doot, 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 doot. And that's how I got my dimensions. And then, yeah, I spent way too long on this, unfortunately. So yeah, I got too caught up in the mindset of, oh, I have to do first assignment first, second assignment second, that sort of deal. And I spent way too much time trying to get this one just right. And yeah, getting all the measurements and stuff. And yeah, I wish I would have spent more time on the second project, which was designing our own bench. But as you can see, I only had like 3 minutes for this, and I didn't do anything, basically. And I wish I would have spent a lot more time doing this, because this would have been way more interesting. And I think it would have been much more interesting to discuss as well. Whereas discussing this, like, there wasn't really anything to discuss. It was... So I think that was a real missed opportunity on my part. There were some people who basically completely ignored the assignment altogether. They're just like, yeah, I don't feel like doing assignment 1. I don't really feel like doing assignment 2. And you know what? Assignment 3, like, eh. Oh yeah, I did not get to assignment 3. Assignment 3 is not here. But yeah, then we went to Opburen, which is a town... I'm not sure exactly where it is. Opburen. Opburen? That seems far. Oh no. No, that's about right. Here it is. Yeah. So it's on the Vecht. And this is a very new development. But it's attempting to be on traditional lines. And I say attempting because of the various developments that we had pointed out to us and that I actually went to, this one was, by popular consensus, by far the least appreciated of our group, of people who are here to study traditional and classical architecture and urban design. Most of them did not like this area very much. They're like, yeah, it's better than a modernist development. But that's not saying much. Because none of these people like modernist developments whatsoever. But we went there with the architect, so the architect of the project, or at least one of the architects of this project. So we had to keep it on the down low for a bit. And yeah. So we walked around, and like, you can see that these are reasonable approximations of traditional Dutch houses, but I'm not sure if there's a good view of it here. Not really. But yeah, there's just something a little bit off about all of them. Like, you have things like this that don't really make sense in sort of the traditional and vernacular architecture. And like, the other thing I think is that it's just a little too perfect. It doesn't have any of that, the life to it. So in 20, 30 years, it'll probably be a lot better. Once it's actually had some living done in it. But yeah, it just wasn't as popular. It wasn't something that a lot of people appreciated. On the other side of the bank, so like this is like the village type area, but then on the other side there's more like estate style. So there's like a big country manor house, but it's actually a bunch of smaller houses, which is quite clever. I actually really appreciated that there's sort of this idea of a big manor house, but it's actually a whole bunch of smaller dwellings for different people. And yeah, I liked it. Other people not as much fans, but hey, I appreciated it. Oh yeah, these were also houses here, but they're houses that are made to look like stables. And here we have another sort of manor home, or rather several manor homes. But yeah, just all individual units sort of grouped together. And then their parking is all shared in this building here, which is meant to look like the stable. So I thought that was clever. This is a big apartment complex, I believe. But once again, big manor house. And then this is from the next day when we did measured drawing. So so let's turn the desk camera back on. So this was the first measured drawing we did. And this was, we did all of our measured drawing right by the Domkerk again. I think the best view of it might be right around here. Yeah. So this little, I'm not sure what the technical term for it is. It's that one right there. Right there. That exact one. Oh, you can't see it because it's covering it up. It's this one. This one right here. So that's what it is. And yeah, this is measured out, so obviously it's going to be quite faithful. Some of the curves I was cheating on a bit because we had no good way of measuring curves. But hey, there we are. And yeah, you can see all of my little mathematics notations here because I was doing so many calculations for this. And then we went inside the cloister here, which is just right here. And let's see if we can street view that. It's going to take me to Oppburen again. Oh, yes. So I believe it's... So this is inside the cloister now. And I think I'm actually... like... Oh, it's actually halfway in between these two. It's this one right here is the one we did. And yeah, we did measured drawing for this as well. So you take your measurements and then you put everything to scale and then you get that. So we have this molding back here, all of this Gothic molding, and that's basically a slice through up here. And then we have this one in here, which is a slice through here, and then looking down a little bit further to this rounder one here. And this already took me like an entire afternoon. So, and like we did this in the morning in like an hour or two. So this bit. And then originally we'd been set up to do this in partners because we didn't have enough tape measures. But I ended up doing this basically solo because my partner got bored and I really enjoyed it. So, good for him, I guess. But I enjoyed myself a lot too. just doing, I would take my measurement, then I would do my calculations, get this in here. And yeah, so this was the slice through here, and this took me like all afternoon. It took so long. And you can see this line here is, of course, the walkway right there. And yeah, so I'd originally planned to then do the lower layer here as well, but that was not going to happen. Yeah, no way was that going to happen. And yeah, you can see some more detail on that molding there. There's that distance between, and yeah, more details of the molding. This was actually from above, like on the terrace of our dorms, and yeah, just some hot air balloons. Quite a nice view, actually. Oh yeah, this is pretty interesting. You have like this super traditional, like, yeah, just super old looking farmhouse, and then this right next to each other. And that does happen. And yeah, this is another interesting thing about the Netherlands, is that like you'll have city and then you'll have countryside, and there'll be like a line of trees in between them, and that's it. Like that's all you need. And it's just, it's gorgeous, it's marvelous, it's wonderful. I really love it. This was teaching us about perspective drawing. So you can see how our instructor, one of the tricks that they showed us is that to sort of give your building more depth and character, you just want to give like the idea of bricks basically without showing every brick, but then the place where you select to put your bricks. Oh shoot, I need to turn off the desk cam. There we go. Now you can actually see what I'm talking about. So you just do like a little line to show where the brick is, rather than showing where all the molding is. And then you also do it on like the edges, so you're both shading and texturing at the same time, which is just super cool, super smart. And then the curtains as well, you can really bring an image to life with just the curtains and a little bit of shading around the outside, and yeah, just super high detail close to you and then fading out. And where is my perspective drawing? Is that on? No. So my perspective drawing is actually here. Where's my desk camera? Now you can see sort of what's going on up here and what's going on down here. And yeah, you can see who the master is and who spent one afternoon learning this, basically. One other trick that I learned is that since your doorways are basically always at like 2/3 of the height of a doorway is basically eye level for most people. So what you can do is, since you have to have like your one horizon and that's supposed to be at your eye level, then you can set up a whole row of doorways, and then you take the 2/3 line, and like it should all be level for that. The 2/3 line of every doorway should be on that horizon, which is a really clever way of thinking about things. That's not something you see here, but it's something that we were taught. And yeah, you can see in this drawing that, you know, I didn't get everything, but I really got the bit about less detail at this end. And more detail at this end. So at least I got something out of it. But I've actually skipped ahead a little bit on the sketchbook, and that's okay. Because I guess this is July 22 is when we then got our... let me expand this. Is when we got our design project brief. And our design brief is the development of this area, which is called Bijleveld. And Bijleveld, you have to zoom out a little bit. So we've got Utrecht there, and Bijleveld is right here. So yeah, you can see all of those ditch lines. Running in the exactly the same. Because Bijleveld is actually a polder. And what a polder is basically, it used to be marshland, and then the Dutch, over centuries, have pumped all the water out. So they drained the swamp, just like Donnie Trump wanted to do, except they actually did it. Ah, shoot. I've lost Bijleveld. Wow. That's super helpful. So yeah, it's this area right in here. And right now it's all agricultural land. And technically, this land doesn't belong to Utrecht. It belongs to the jurisdiction of this town, Woerden. And I'm not sure if it's, like, what level of jurisdiction it is, but yeah, you have Woerden here, which controls up to here, possibly further, I don't know. And then you also have the village of Harmelen, which is also part of that, like, jurisdiction, how things are divided. I'm not sure exactly at what level, but yeah, Utrecht doesn't control this land, but it is essentially an Utrecht neighborhood. And it's a bit of an interesting site, because there's a lot of people who don't want it to be used, but it's going to be used anyhow. Like, we had the developers of this site come in. They haven't started on it, but like they have their master plan and all that jazz laid out already. So I think it's only a matter of time before we start seeing a bunch of houses right in here, I believe is where they have it. But yeah, you have the village of Harmelen, who really wants to stay, like, keep the village feel to them. So they want to have a barrier around them of farmland, of greenery, all that lovely stuff, and not get absorbed into the city. You've got these greenhouses here, these massive greenhouses. And then, yeah, right now this is all agricultural land. But you, of course, have massive highway here, major roadways all around the side. And then this is it the Rhine? The Vecht? Whatever this is actually a river, but it's like a canalified river, basically. And then, yeah, you have all of these farmhouses across the top. And yeah, they don't want to sell their land. They don't want to give up their farmland for the most part either. Yeah, there's some who really don't want to give up their land. And there's also a strip of land, I think it might be this one, or it might be this one, but it's actually owned by a knightly order in Utrecht from way back in the Crusades, which is super cool. Oh, it might be this one. I'm not entirely sure. I think I don't remember. Anyhow, so there's a knightly order that owns a plot of this land. They've sold it to the developers, but since one of their missions is to do with like hospitality for, I think it's dementia or like what's the word I'm looking for? Like people with developmental disabilities is, I think, sort of what they're one of the things they work for. So it's like developmental disabilities, mental illness, somewhere in that sphere is like one of the things that is sort of a focus of theirs as a knightly order. So that's one of the things that they really work for. And so the deal that they made with the developer is that, yes, we'll sell you the land to build houses on, but some of that housing has to be like subsidized housing for these people that we're working for. Yeah, so lots of really interesting stuff about this site. The other interesting thing is that you have all these ditches here, and they're at the same water level here as they are in this field, and possibly some other fields as well, but when I went on my site visit with one of my group mates, we didn't check much beyond these two fields. So these two are at the same water height. There may be others as well. I don't know. But interestingly, those ditches are not anywhere close to the water level here. It's like a 1.5 to 2 meter difference between the water level in the river and the water in these ditches. And the ditches are significantly low. It's the ditches that are lower, not the river. Which, yeah, just absolutely fascinating. And yeah, that's because the Dutch have been pumping out these lands for eons. Just generations upon generations of pumping water out. And then, yeah, there's a difference between the water level here and here as well. But it's only like 15 centimeters, and they are connected. So it's not nearly as bad. So then, yeah, this is my initial concept before I'd even known who my group was. But right after we received the design brief, this was before I went on my site visit. So yeah, you can see I have all the initial things outlined. It's not quite to scale, but it's reasonably close. Like look at that. That's a fairly similar shape. Decently proportional. And yeah, I wanted to do sort of one major connection that goes from here up through to here. Yeah, at the time I thought this was primarily a bicycle lane, bicycle and bus. No, that's a proper street. And yeah, we didn't want to include more car traffic up on this side, really. But it would have happened a little bit. Yeah, and then I had another big connection down this way, and that's sort of like how I approached it. Was I was like, okay, what are the things that I want to connect? And one of the other things I wanted to do was I wanted to put a big canal around the edge, which my group mates agreed with. And the canal I wanted to be primarily just like connecting up some of these little ditches and stuff. And then widening them and deepening them, basically. But just really using these ditches to sort of keep that, keep the character. And that sort of morphed into, with our group a little bit later on, that morphed into sort of this. Here we go. So here you can see the development of our core ideas. We've got two major centers. So we have here a community hall and here a school. And this one is modeled after some churches that are sort of built on a hill and then have the town also built on the hill. And that's very common in Friesland, which is a more northern province in the Netherlands. And that's a very old way of building cities. Before they had the polders and were pumping water out. Because, yeah, then when the area would flood, then your town was on a big hill, and your church, of course, was at the top of the hill, so it's the most important area, and you're least likely to have any flooding in there, which is quite handy. So then, yeah, emulating that, and then also we have sort of a Gothic Abbey turned school, because yeah, the Netherlands has they have too many churches right now, so we weren't allowed to build any religious buildings, because yeah, there's too many churches, and the Netherlands' largest mosque, I believe, was just built right by the train station, basically. I'm not sure exactly where it is, but it's somewhere around here. Yeah, I don't know where. But there's a big mosque around here somewhere. But I don't see it. No, that looks like it's my bedtime, but we've got a lot of ground to cover still. And then, yeah, so you can see that there's still some of that connectivity of keeping things across. And yeah, I really like having some of those diagonals to break up the flow a little bit more, and yeah, just offer these pathways for people to take that are then going to be self-reinforcing, and people are going to take these roads because it actually allows them to get somewhere. And I think that having more grid pattern kind of locks you in to it kind of locks you away from some of that mobility in a certain way. Unfortunately, my group ended up wanting to go in a more grid pattern, but you know, I got some concessions out of them. So we still had some things, but yeah, this was my drawing, but then one of my group mates did the shading, and yeah, this made it look a lot nicer, I think. But the shading, yeah, shading always makes it look nicer. Pro tip. And then here's a map of some of the other sites as well. So, of course, you can see this whole area here. So we have our site, Bijleveld, right in here. We've got Woerden over here, also outlined there. And then there's up this way. Where is it? Oh, here it is. There's De Haar, I guess. I'm not entirely sure what they called this, but there's like a big proper medieval fortress villagey type thing up this direction. At number 4 here. And then they also identified number 2 here, which is that's this one right here. And these sort of 3 other sites were sites that they thought that, hey, maybe you can take some inspiration from. I didn't actually get to go to 3 or 4, because yeah, they're really far away. Biking to Bijleveld from the classroom was already like an hour or something. I think it was only 30 minutes cycling, but yeah, that eats up a lot of time. That's a big distance to go. Maybe if I sort of bicycling, yeah, 33 minutes. I think it was 35 on the day we went, but yeah, it's not a short cycle. So yeah, then to have gone to Worden on top of that, no. And I didn't want to spend money on a tram, so there were other people who would have been happy to spend money on the train or public transit, but I didn't want to. And same with this one up here. But this one was basically right on the way. So on the way back, we visited it, and this is a new development. And honestly, of all the developments we saw, this was the best. Because, yeah, we went to Opburen, we went to another new development called Brandevoort, but this one, I don't know what this neighborhood is called, but yeah, we just thought that this was the nicest and sort of the most Dutch, really. It really has that flavor to it a little bit more. It had that vibrancy to it that some of the others didn't have as much. And I think, in fairness, we didn't see Brandevoort at its best. And this is where at least two of us in our group of four ended up drawing a lot of inspiration, was this little area here. We were thinking of, like, in this... oh no, the camera broke. Shoot. I don't know what it is, but this camera has been struggling today. Nope, still broken. I think this camera has often been struggling, but I don't use it very often, so that helps. Okay, let's see if that's fixed it. There we go. Hey, we're back in business. So yeah, we were thinking, at least in this area, that we would have buildings that were maybe one story shorter than this. Because these were a little bit tall, but like you can see that this is like this, but at least like it doesn't have the same seams that we saw on some of the Opburen stuff, and also some of the Brandevoort stuff. And then there's, yeah, very clear references that are really making proper use of Dutch traditional architecture in ways that it's adapting them, and it's growing them. And yeah, it just felt like such a nice place. And I'll show you Opburen again. And to show you what I mean about the seams, I think right around here. Yeah, so you can see that, like, I don't know, it just doesn't have the same magic to it. It looks a little bit like a cheap imitation. And oh, there's a really great example of what I'm talking about with the seams. Like, you have your one facade, and then you have just this massive seam, and there's hardly an attempt to cover it up. And like it just doesn't look quite right, which happens a lot in Opburen specifically. We found that, yeah, things are just not quite right. Some things, like, don't get me wrong, there's still things about it that are really nice. But yeah, there's some things that are just a little bit off, and it doesn't quite capture the same magic that proper cities have. Or not proper cities, I should say, but like that actual traditional cities have. And I think sort of the proof is in the pudding to a certain extent, because This town, Opburen, like it has this commercial space down here, but there was a restaurant, I think, down that way. I think the restaurant was right here. Yeah. So there's one place to get food in this little village area, and it's right here. Yeah, restaurant. Um, and this place is now closed. At the other development that we were at, there were several restaurants, and they were all open. There were shops, open, thriving, and yeah, even that the other city that we went to for an excursion, Brandivort, which is also a new development along traditional lines. Is this? This doesn't look right. Where's the where's the square that we were at? Ah, here we are. This is the square in Brandivort that we went to. And you can see that, like, I'm not sure if there's a seam there. Yeah. No, there isn't. That's just the shadow of the pipe. But, like, you can see that, yeah, sure, it's... The space is maybe a little too big, but it's a lot closer to capturing that sort of magic than Opburen was. And yeah, there's like a pizza place right in here. There's a bar or two down at the other end. Like, I don't think that we saw it at its best. I think that's a fair assessment. Because when we went, it was too hot. It was a lazy afternoon, lazy Sunday afternoon, I think. And yeah, I really, truly believe that we didn't see it at its best. But it was a huge improvement over Opburen, I thought. But yeah, that other little neighborhood just... That one really took the cake for me, I think. But anyhow, I'm getting sidetracked and it's already too late. On the same day that we did the perspective drawing, we also learned a little bit about the classical orders. Let's see if I have any photographs. Here's more perspective drawing stuff. That's where I took my perspective drawing of. I guess that evening, yeah, I did like a little extra trip to Amsterdam. We didn't really do anything. We just kind of walked around. It was nice. Amsterdam is a beautiful city to look at. It's kind of smelly though. But yeah, we also studied the classical orders and sort of the proportionality. So this is, I think it's either Doric or Ionic, this order, but I forget. Basically, everything in the classical orders is proportional. So you take your column width, and that determines how high your column is, how high your entablature is, and then you can also use that for determining how you're spaced a little bit. Like, there's certain rules that are really strict to follow, and certain rules that you can play around with, certain rules that don't matter at all. And then certain rules that have more options. Like, the classical orders are really just like, it's a whole different set of tools that you can just play around with. Then we have, this is Buren. Which is a lovely little medieval village. Where were we? Ah, here we are. I think... Oh yeah, here we are. So there's this church right here, and that's what this is. But as you can see, I've pasted out completely wrong, because we were doing like measure drawing, but measuring by just pacing things out. And this alleyway here, this one here, is supposed to be this alleyway here. But if you look down that alleyway, there's no church. The church doesn't go that far, you know? Let's see, yeah. So yeah, this little alleyway. Oh yeah, and I can see now that my angle was just completely wrong. And that's basically why this is so wrong, I think. But yeah, the church is supposed to be shifted to back here, because it's actually a little bit behind where this house is and where the alley is. Just a little bit, but this distance, yeah, that's not a little bit behind. That's a lot bit in front of. And then there's this really cute little neighborhood behind the church, and that's what these are. So let me just see if... Okay, that's the closest I'm gonna get. So I was drawing these 3 houses there. Are these ones here. Very cute. And let's see if I can find my photos of that house. Yeah, so here you can see what I mean when I say this little village area is just super cute, super homey. And yeah, it really does have a certain magic, a feeling lived into it. It looks like I didn't get like a full face-on photo of it, which is too bad. There we have it. And yeah, it's just really, really nice. Just this tiny little village, and it's absolutely teeming with life. It's really quite something. You have the various streets. Oh yeah, a massive cannon. Was I taking photos this whole time? I thought that... Hopefully I took some video as well for the vlog. Yeah, so then this was Buren and various parts of our trip, and here's Brandevort. And yeah, you can see it's kind of dead on this day. But yeah, that's because it's too hot. Oh, and this is a completely different excursion to... I don't remember where. It starts with a Z, I think. Oh, and here's Brandevort. Here's the market square there. That's this one right here. No, I want to leave. We'll go back to Market Hall Brandevort. Wow, thank you for really isolating that for me. Yeah, so here's my drawing of that. Ooh. And you can see that I made this too wide. But there we go. I made this too wide and this too short. But I did sort of capture what that space really felt like to me. And I was just running all over the place, running up here and over this way, and just trying to figure out how these things were spaced out. And yeah, I definitely made it too wide looking at it now. But it's, if you just say that, hey, the width and length aren't quite proportional, they aren't on the same scale, then yeah, that's basically about right. And yeah, since I'd spent so long on the measurements for this one and it had gone completely wrong, I decided to go the exact opposite way and just try and get down what it felt like, really. Um, to get down how that space was spaced out. And yeah, I think in some ways this is much more of a success. I planned eventually to get measurements down for things, but running theme, I ran out of time. We also had one of the architects of this area, which is the latest section of this under development. Yeah, it's not just a parking lot anymore. I wonder if there's... Oh, interesting. No, it is just a field here. But when we went, there was, like, they had a whole bunch of the house, like, the walls were starting to come up around. And they had these massive long ties, because you have your wall, and then you have the tie coming out of it, and then you have your insulation, and then you have your brickwork, and then the ties hold that in place. So the brickwork isn't structural. It's more just for aesthetic purposes, but it looks really, really good. Personally, I really like brickwork. I know that I ran a poll on the Discord not too long ago to see how people liked brickwork, and it was unexpectedly divisive to me. I was not expecting people to be that divided on whether they liked brickwork or not. Personally, I really like brickwork, but I understand that some people don't, so that's good to consider. Where is this? I know where it is. I just can't remember the name of this town. So glad that it has the geolocation of it. Zaandam, right. That's what this town is called. Zaandam. And Zaandam is famous for this very particular style of greenhouse. Maybe I can pull up an image. Zaandam houses. Of course, it's all this hotel. Here we go. So yeah, you can see like these traditional green, historic greenhouses in Zaandam. And that's like a very big thing for that town, is these greenhouses. I think it's related to like what paint was available after the war, but I'm not 100% sure. But I think that it was something like that as to why all these houses were green. And then that just sort of became like a signature for this town. And then I think he's more of a modern architect, decided to copy that. And he built this big hotel that sort of plays around with this Zaandam style, but it's not quite. It's not that it's not quite authentic. It's that it's not authentic. to what that is. In many way, in many ways, some of the architects we had who talked about this, um, who had also worked on the Zandam project, they worked uh, like directly across the street on these little cute houses here, um, which these are actually really quite lovely. Um, I thought at least. I thought they were quite lovely. And then compared to the hotel, the way that they described it is that this architect, the architect who designed this, uh, he likes to play jokes, and he doesn't like to take things too seriously. Um, he likes to have a bit of fun. And I think in that perspective, this hotel is actually like a really great success. Because yeah, it's fun. It's fun and it's interesting, and like it is paying homage to these local customs, but it's also not taking them too seriously. Um, but I think I would have liked it to be a little more true uh, to the local customs. I feel like there's sort of a line between uh, playing jokes and being disrespectful, and yeah, like I think that's a really fine line to walk, and yeah, it's really easy to like have fun with something, but then also you're not taking it seriously enough, and you're kind of just making a mockery of it. Um, which I don't think he intended to make a mockery of this style. I think that he really actually does love it. From the very little that we saw of him talking about it, we didn't have this architect come in to lecture to us, but he did have like a video about it, and like yeah, I personally I think I would have liked to see something that was a little bit closer to the tradition, but I think there's something to be said for this too. Um, I think it's just not to my preference. And I think it's also an improvement over some other buildings. There's like a big, it's just there's a massive concrete monstrosity somewhere. Is there? Am I not able to? Oh, I'd like to. Well, this is annoying. There's a big bank, like just a massive banking building somewhere, that's just like this massive concrete, and it's quite ugly. Is this the one? Oh yeah. So yeah, one of the goals of this architect, when he was building the hotel, was to was to cover up this monstrosity. And yeah, this is quite ugly. It's quite ugly. But hey, there you have it. And yeah, the architect who worked on this the little shop on the other side of the street here, she talked about the window moldings and sort of the compromises that she had to make on this window molding to get it both affordable and also like true to what she wanted and that sort of deal. And I think that was some of the most interesting insights that we got from her, was uh, her discussing like how she couldn't get everything that she wanted out of this, um, but how she tried to sort of get as much of it as she could to really stay true to the local character and traditional building materials and techniques and aesthetics, and also making it affordable and making it work. And yeah, I thought it was something that was missing from a lot of the other discussions by architects, where like the architects who would come in to talk about themselves and their work, a lot of the time they wouldn't tell us like, hey, these are some things that we tried that didn't really work for us. And a lot of the time it was just them talking about sort of like why their project was such a big success. And like no project is 100% successful. Like, we learn more from failure than we do from success a lot of the time. So in many ways, I think it really would have been nice if some of these architects would have told us a little bit about, hey, no, this didn't work for us. Here's what went wrong. Here's what we tried to do, and here's what ended up happening. And here's the reasons why there's that disconnect between what we tried to do and what actually ended up happening. So yeah, I wish we would have seen more of that from them. And it was really good to actually hear that on this. Unfortunately, like, the water in Zaandam, it had no movement in it, and it was pretty gross. It didn't smell bad, which is good, but it sure didn't look good. And yeah, you can see here some more jokes being played with the local architecture. I think this is like, it's enough of a joke to be fun, but it's also enough of it's also staying true enough to the traditional and local traditions, traditional architecture and local traditions rather, that I think this strikes a better balance than the hotel. But that's just me personally. One of the complaints that a lot of people had about this area is that it felt very much like a Disneyland, which, yeah, I kind of agree with. Like, it does feel a little bit artificial. It did feel rather, but also, like, Disney World is a huge success, and the urban planning of Disneyland is quite good for the most part. So even if you hit Disney World, that's not the end of the world, I think. And some of my my classmates were talking about it like it was, and they're like, I really don't want to make a Disney World. And personally, I think there are worse things to have happen than to accidentally make a Disney World. So long as not everything you do is Disneyland, then it's okay, I think. And yeah, just there's some really nice traditional stuff on that area too. I think this was, I'm not sure if this was actually a traditional Zaandam house, but one of the things that happened when they did this big project is that a lot of the shop owners were like, actually, that looks rather nice. I need to renovate my shop front anyhow. Maybe I will renovate it more in this traditional style. And that's really cool that that's happening. And, you know, some of the time it's not so much they're like, I can't afford to renovate all of it, but I can afford to renovate some details. Oh yeah, this is a synagogue that now sells phones. Like, the synagogue doesn't sell phones, but like, the building used to be a synagogue, and now there's a phone shop underneath. Which, yeah, it's something that happens in the Netherlands a lot, it seems like. Not necessarily that a phone shop is being sold, like, you're selling phones in houses of worship, former houses of worship, but like, things get reused all the time. One other interesting thing about synagogues in the Netherlands is that during like the Gilded era, the golden age of the Dutch Empire, then uh, there's a huge amount of animosity towards Catholicism. So Catholics were not allowed to have like visible churches, basically. But because it was Protestant and there was a lot of bad blood with the Catholics, the Netherlands, with their history of fighting against the Catholics and the Habsburgs and all that jazz. So the Catholics weren't allowed to have like any visible churches at all. But on the other hand, the Dutch were quite happy to allow the Jews to do whatever they wanted. So so you have these opulent synagogues that are being built and even like subsidized by the government out of religious tolerance. But the Catholics, not you. Jews, yes. Catholics, no. Which I found quite funny. It's a funny historical tidbit. This is a boat in Zaandam, but it's, of course, actually just like a... What's the word? It's over the canal, and you can stand here. And there's a boat as a roof, which is fun. These are really cool details. Some more cool detail work. There's the church spire, just peeping up over there. Lots of interesting stuff. Because yeah, Zaandam still has a ton of these really historical buildings. This building reminded me so much of home. Like, this is a very Alberta looking building in a certain sort of way. Like, obviously, most Alberta buildings do not look like this, but this reminded me of like the university campus at U of A and some of like the old buildings there. It's got the brick and it's got the sandstone. And yeah, just of course it's classically arranged as well. So then yeah, of course they're both that way, but like yeah. Obviously there's some things that are very different. Like you wouldn't see that on an Alberta building. You wouldn't see these. There would probably be a different amount of sandstone. And it would be simpler, but yeah, it still reminded me so much of home. Just that combination. And yeah, you can see that some people are really grabbing some of that that local flavor and adding that to their shops and such. Just an old church just there. Happens a lot. But yeah, just a bumblebee. Oh yeah, this is also part of the that. These are all fake tulips, of course, but I still think they look cool. Zaandam. This is the entrance to the train station. I believe this is in Amsterdam. On the Herengracht, I believe. And yeah, Amsterdam, as I say, beautiful city. Gorgeous city. This is the Paleis op de Dam. And this is sort of how the columns on the front face are arranged. This was originally the city hall for Amsterdam, and then it was taken over, I think, during the French occupation, the Napoleonic occupation, by the installed French king, who was Napoleon's brother, of course. Nepotism. Woot woot. And then ever since then, it's been a royal palace for the Dutch monarchy. But yeah, you can see how all these different you've all these different themes on them, which is quite interesting. And then inside as well. And yeah, it's truly opulent, this building. And so much symbolism and oh yes. This lady is holding a chameleon because she is the lady who's supposed to symbolize the air, because there's the 4 elements in this hall. 4 elements, according to classical Greek ideas, but hey, there you are, the 4 humors. But the funny thing is, the reason why she has a chameleon is because at the time, people didn't know that chameleons ate insects, so they thought they just ate air. So of course that makes a chameleon a creature of the air, which is why the lady who represents air is holding a chameleon. So that's just very funny, I thought. Yeah, more symbolism. Always putting Amsterdam at the center of the world in some way or another. Oh yeah, this is a jail cell for multiple people, actually. Yeah. I think this is the Lord Mayor's chamber, or perhaps this might be the justice, like the hall of one of the halls of justice, the courts. That's what the word is, the court. Oh yeah, this is the court. So one of the interesting things, we didn't get this on the tour, but from an earlier lecture, one of the interesting things about this building is that you can tell how important somebody is by the columns on their fireplace. So the Lord Mayor, of course, is the most important person in this building. So he has white marble everything, number 1. And number 2, he gets Corinthian pillars. And then the person below him, they get Corinthian pillars, but they only get white marble for most things. And then the next person gets Corinthian pillars, but they're starting to get into the lower grades of marble, and so on and so forth. And then you get far enough down, and they've got ionic pillars instead, and and so on and so forth. Yeah, just really, really interesting stuff. Here's all the various leaders. I forget what this room is. Here's the former Burgmeister's council chamber. And this is some guy from classic, from, I think, Rome. And he's refusing bribes, because that's important for Burgmeisters. Very symbolism. Wow, that's a really great photo, me. I believe this is Wilhelmina, I think. Yeah, this palace is truly opulent. Yeah, so here you can see, they've got white marble and red marble, so. Oh, but they've got ionic pillars. They're a step down. Actually, these are combined. So, in a lot of places, you have, like, your most important is actually your combined pillar. But in the Netherlands specifically, combined is actually below Corinthian. So they actually have that flipped around in the Netherlands in terms of importance. And that's just a cultural thing. I'm not entirely sure why. The Moses Hall, of course, has a massive painting of Moses. I'm not entirely sure what... Oh, I think this might be the... Yeah, I've forgotten already what that symbolism is. We have all the... we have SPQA, Senatus Populusque Amsterdamus, or however you conjugate Amsterdam in Latin. And then all of the important houses and their coats. Moses at the tabernacle, at the dedication of the tabernacle, I think. The tour guide for this said that she was pretty sure this had something to do with the Red Sea, and me being, even remotely up on my biblical history, I was like, no. No, it's not. It is not at all. You have no idea. Um, yeah, just so much symbolism. I forget if this was the couple of kings that liked each other or not. Because either this is Napoleon's younger brother and his wife, and they slept in opposite bedchambers because they didn't like each other, and she left the Netherlands and after 1 year, and he stayed as long as he could, basically. Or this is actually like one of the royal families that was actually really close. I think this is the one that was really close. It might be the same one. But yeah, they have their proper family portrait and everything. Wow, I took some really shaky photos. Oh yeah, this is the execution hall. And this hall is actually the reason why the house doesn't have a traditional classical entryway, because in the very old city hall, they used to have like this sort of entryway that was sort of in the city hall where they would perform the executions. So then they wanted to keep that tradition, where they would perform the executions in this sort of hall that was semi-enclosed but still like open to the public, basically, like really open to the public. And then yeah, that's what this is here. Wow, great photos, fantastic photos, really spectacular photos. Oh yeah, this is a fasces, I believe. You got the axe head there, the vines and the cord on the bundle of rods there. So, das mooi. Nice buildings in Amsterdam. Whoever could have seen that coming. How many more photos do I have? And how much more sketchbook do I have? Yeah, so... Oh yeah. Here's a couple pages more in the sketchbook. The sketchbook kind of devolves a little bit. We just have some random sketches for the design project. It all becomes very focused on the design project, basically. Although one interesting thing I did is I had a free Sunday, and I used it to go to a service at the Dom Cathedral. And yeah, I saw... Since I couldn't understand the service because it was in Dutch, what I did during the sermon is I was looking at the windows and trying to figure out how they worked. Because one of the really interesting things about Gothic architecture is that everything can be done with a ruler and a compass, and that's like all you need. So I was trying to figure out how these things were put together. And I figured out the arches a little bit. I tried to figure out the rosettes. I'm not there on the rosettes. Gonna need to study more. And yeah, then just more sketching, trying things out. And vernacular architecture, at least in the Netherlands, is much the same, where it's all geometric, so it's all ruler and compass. And I was really trying to figure out how it worked. And I eventually landed on something that, at least I have one pattern for how it works, and it's pretty nice. This is like by far the simplest Dutch gable, but yeah, you can see like there's so many different ways to vary it up if you want. Make it wider, you can make it narrower, taller, shorter, whatever. And yeah, just all kinds of different things you can do with it. Here's an elevation of it. Wonder if I have... Oh yeah. Oh, this is the final elevation that I did. Although this actually ended up being a section view. But yeah, I did it all in pencil. It's all to scale. And then I added watercolor to it just to really make it feel alive, you know? And this is my backpack full of beer. I personally do not drink, but we had a big barbecue one night, and here's everyone. And yeah, I went with one of my friends to go shopping for it, and he was like, "Hey, I don't have enough space for all my beers," and I had tons of space, so I was like, "Here, throw it in my backpack." Some pictures of the moon. Here's the section view up a little bit closer. And I guess that's the last one. Yeah, so that was my adventure. And this feels like the perfect song to end off. Oh yeah, here's another copy of my elevation, the earlier draft. I think that's everything. Well, thank you all for sticking with me. I had originally planned to actually do a little bit of drawing tonight, but it is way too late for that, and my voice is too tired. So I thank you all for joining me. I thank you all for waiting for me, and have yourselves a lovely evening. Good night.